They say every monster fears Silver, but no one warned me what happens when Silver falls in love with the monster. I wasn't supposed to survive that night. He wasn't supposed to smile when I stabbed him. Yet somehow, we both did. Now the line between hate and hunger is gone, and the world will never understand what we've become. This isn't a love story, it's a reckoning, and it's only the beginning. If you're ready to feel every burn, every betrayal, and every heartbeat that shouldn't exist, hit like, subscribe, and don't blink. The forest didn't sing that night. No crickets, no owls, just the wet drag of my breath and the whisper of pine when I slipped through it. Blood moonlight made the trunks glow like bone. I moved with the blade held low, wrapped in cloth so it wouldn't catch the light or tremble in my grip. His scent hit first, iron and storm, a current under the needles and cold. Wolves pad their territory with sound. He didn't. He was a hush you felt in your ribs. I stepped into the clearing and saw him. Bare arms, scars like pale ropes across muscle, hair close-cropped, eyes catching the red moon and throwing it back. Not a beast. A man carrying the beast like a second heartbeat. He stood with his hands open at his sides as if he'd been waiting, as if every path in the forest bent to meet this one. "You took your time," he said. My name burned in my throat, the one I'd left behind with my family in a house full of torn walls and silence. I didn't speak it, I didn't answer. I closed the distance with each breath measured, each step sunk deep to kill the crunch. He tracked me the way storms track a coast, already claimed, already marked. "I expected you sooner," he went on. "After the fire, I ran, not away, through him. The blade flashed. Silver doesn't need permission, it just needs skin. I drove it up beneath his ribs, exactly where the old texts mapped the monster's heart. Heat rushed over my hands. He folded around the steel, and for a beat I saw something like relief break across his face, as if I'd cut a knot he couldn't untie. Then his mouth curved, slow and ruined. He smiled. "Mate," he whispered, voice rough like a prayer you don't want to believe in. The forest exhaled. Wolves slid from the trees one by one, shoulders rolling, teeth small flashes of moon. Boots followed, men and women with gold cords at their throats and the same stillness in their eyes. The ring closed. I kept my palm braced to the hilt, ready to twist, to end it, to make the night honest again. "Finish it," the tall one with gray at his temples said. His gaze crawled over me and judged me as if I were a loose thread to be cut. "Alpha, command it and we'll—" "No," the man around my blade said, not looking away from me. The word fell soft, and the ring listened. I shoved harder. Silver kissed bone. He made a sound that wasn't pain. Something inside my chest lurched, a rope yanked taut. "Why aren't you dying?" I asked. My voice came out too steady. I hated it. "Because you found me," he said. Rage tried to come and stalled on a different feeling, thin and sharp, a strand I couldn't name. I yanked the blade free. His blood ran dark. The wolves inhaled as one. He swayed and set his feet again, a line of red spilling down his stomach. No roar, no fall, just that stare, steady and impossible. "Kill her," the gray-templed one snapped. "Now." His head turned. Only that. Every wolf went to the dirt. I moved again. He let me. I slashed across his forearm and watched the cut seal as if the skin remembered how it should have always been. The silver sang. His blood steamed. The pack murmured like a storm far off. I slashed again. The steam rose. The wound closed slower, like the edge of a memory. "You're not supposed to heal from this," I said. He stepped inside the reach of my blade and closed his hand over my wrist. Not hard, not gentle. A grip that knew my bones. Heat shot up my arm, bright enough to make the clearing tilt. The wolves lifted their heads as if a new scent had just split the air. "Neither are you," he said softly. For an instant I saw our reflections layered, his eyes inside mine, my mouth set like his, moonlight painting the same scar in two places. I ripped free and stumbled back. The ring shifted to herd me. He moved once, and they stilled. "You think you know me," I said, dragging breath until my lungs bit. "You burned my house. You broke my pack. You left me in the ashes and called it law." I lifted the blade. "Say the truth while you still can." He didn't flinch. "I never touched your fire." Lies land with a certain weight. This one didn't. It slid past me and settled in the dirt at my feet. The gray-templed man made a sound like scorn coughing up smoke. "Enough," the beta said. "You're bleeding. End it." He didn't. He took one more step toward me, close enough that the world shrank to heat and breath, and the way the moon stuck to the sheen on his skin. "If you mean to kill me," he said, "do it clean. I will not run from you." My fingers tightened around the hilt until the cloth creaked. My hands had steadied around my parents' cups. My hands had steadied at graves. They did not steady now. A thought whiffed through me, thin as wire. If I killed him, something in me would go with him. I lunged for his throat. He caught the blow with his palm, silver burning into his flesh. No cry, no pull away. Only his gaze dropping to my mouth in a quick, unguarded flicker, like a man licking a wound with his eyes. Heat knifed up my arm again, so bright my knees wanted to give. The wolves shivered. Someone behind me whispered a word I couldn't hear. The forest leaned in. "I didn't call you to me," he said, voice a break in still water. "But when you came, I knew." "Knew what?" He released my wrist and touched 2 fingers to his chest, right where my blade had gone in. Blood slicked his hand. A slow, deliberate gesture, private as prayer and public as a coronation. "You," he said. I drove my knee into his thigh and spun, aiming for distance, for a gap. A body blocked me, broad-shouldered, young, pupils blown. The beta. He grinned like a knife. "Alpha's pet," he said. "Let me." His alpha didn't raise his voice. "Move." The beta's smile died without a funeral. He stepped aside. The pack opened a slice of night like a doorway, and I ran for it because running is not always fear. Sometimes it's the only way to keep from breaking where you stand. The forest accepted me, then refused me. Every path slid back into the clearing. The moon sat above like an eye that didn't blink. My chest burned. My calves burned. I stopped because the world is finite and so is fury. He was there already, breath steady, hands empty. He hadn't bothered to chase. The pack circled but held. I hated the part of me that was grateful they held. I hated that the hate wasn't clean. "You can cage me," I said. "You can try." "I'm not caging you," he said. "I'm keeping you alive." "Why?" The corner of his mouth lifted, not in triumph, in recognition. "Because you already did the same." The words hit like the flat of a blade. No cut, just shock. My mind dragged fragments out of storage, a shadow dragging me by the collar through smoke, strong hands shoving me into dirt and telling me not to breathe. The fire eating the rafters while a body stood between me and falling beams. Memory can lie. The body's shape had not been this man's, but the stillness in the eyes had. "I don't owe you," I said. "I didn't ask," he answered, "but my pack will. They're not ready to see you and live." He tipped his chin to the gray-templed man. Darian, the beta, or whatever he was, stepped forward with iron cuffs. Not chains, not silver. A token meant to insult. I lifted the blade enough to make him hesitate. "Touch me," I said, "and I'll carve your name out of your tongue." Darian looked to his alpha. The alpha looked at me. He didn't smile this time. "No cuffs," he said. "She walks." A ripple of confusion moved through the wolves and died. He started toward the trees on the far side, and the pack fell into formation around us like the closing of a book. I kept the blade in my hand and my eyes on his back. Muscle rolled under skin marked by an old brand, a symbol I didn't recognize until it moved, catching light, a circle split by a vertical line. My breath stuttered. I knew that brand. I'd seen it pressed into wood above a door long ago, a door that led to a cellar where I learned to hide. He paused as if he'd felt my memory stir. He didn't turn. "What do they call you?" I asked before the courage could die. The pack quieted as if names were currency, and I just asked to see the vault. He looked over his shoulder. The blood had dried to dark paint across his ribs. The cut in his palm had sealed, leaving a small star. "Rowan," he said. "But they call me Blood Alpha when they want to forget I'm a man." I swallowed the name like it might cut me from the inside. "Then remember I'm a woman who tried to kill you." "I remember everything," Rowan said. "That's why you're still breathing." We walked. The forest followed. At the edge of the clearing, pain lit my arm from wrist to elbow, hot and clean. I hissed and looked down. Thin lines burned under my skin, curling into a sigil I didn't know but my bones did. The mark rose like ink waking. The wolves scented it and flinched. Darian spat into the needles. "Curse." Rowan's voice went low. "Bond." I stood very still and watched the lines settle, my pulse printing itself in light. Every beat said the same impossible thing. I didn't kill him. I claimed him. The first morning in his territory felt like waking inside a heartbeat that wasn't mine. Every wall breathed. Every step I took, something listened. The room wasn't a cell, not exactly. Stone and timber polished to a deceptive calm. But the air carried his scent so thick it might as well have been a chain. He didn't come for hours. When he did, he didn't speak. He only set food on the table. Meat, bread, berries, and watched while I pretended not to starve. His eyes held the kind of patience that doesn't need to threaten. It simply waits until you undo yourself. "Eat," he said finally. I hated that I did. That day I tested every edge of the room, the doors, the high windows. Each path led me back to the same place, the wooden door that opened to a courtyard patrolled by his wolves in human skin. They didn't touch me. They just watched, the way he did, as though memorizing every breath for him. That night I ran. I don't remember the path, only the cold slap of rain and the way the forest swallowed sound. I made it as far as the ridge before his voice found me, calm and steady, from somewhere I couldn't see. "Keep going," he said. "Let's see how far you get." I ran until my legs trembled and the trees blurred into one endless wall. When I stumbled, his hands were there, catching me before the ground could. No anger, no pain, just that same infuriating steadiness. He carried me back like I weighed nothing. "Why don't you just kill me?" I spat. "Because you don't know what you did," he said, setting me down at the edge of the firelight. "And I want to watch you remember." For 3 nights, he didn't come near me. The pack avoided my gaze but never left me alone. Sleep brought memories half buried, flashes of fire, a figure standing between me and the flames, a hand pushing me towards safety. I woke screaming more than once. The 4th night he came when the dream still clung to me. No words, just a presence that filled the space before thought could form. When his hand brushed mine, the shaking stopped. I should have pulled away. Instead, my body betrayed me with stillness. "Tell me what you saw," he said quietly. "Fire," I breathed. "And you?" He nodded like that was the answer he'd been waiting for. "You're remembering." I wanted to hate him, to keep that fury clean and sharp, but hate needs distance. And every time he stepped closer, the distance died. Each attempt I made to flee after that felt less like escape and more like ritual. He always found me, always brought me back unmarked, except for the quiet look that said, "Try again if you need to." By the end of the week, the rhythm of it became something worse than captivity. It became familiar. And familiarity is the first stage of surrender. They never hid their hate. It dripped from their eyes, thick as the mist that hung over the valley. Every stare said the same thing: outsider, curse, mistake. The wolves had followed him into countless wars, but now their alpha shared his breath with the girl who tried to end him. That was something they couldn't forgive. The first challenge came at dawn. The beta, Darian, stepped into the training ring as the pack gathered in a wide circle. The air smelled of metal and wet soil. His voice carried over the sound of steel clashing in the distance. "She marked you," he said to the alpha, but his gaze stayed fixed on me. "And you let her live. Every day she breathes, our power fades." Rowan didn't respond. His silence was a kind of law. "Let me prove what she is," Darian continued, eyes sharp with the thrill of rebellion. "If she's no curse, she'll survive. If she is, the ground will take her back." The alpha's jaw shifted once, the muscle tight. Then, one word. "Do it." The ring opened. He tossed me a blade longer than the one I'd driven into Rowan's heart. "You wanted blood once," he said. "Take mine." I didn't want the fight, but in this place, refusal meant weakness, and weakness was a scent they'd tear apart. When the horn sounded, Darian moved first. He was fast, years of training pressed into each strike. I blocked, barely, every blow forcing me back into the dirt. The pack's growls rose with each stumble. He fought like someone defending faith, not flesh. A cut opened on my arm, another on my thigh. His grin widened. "You don't belong here," he hissed. The next strike, I let him come close, too close, and used his weight to spin him, driving the hilt of my blade into his ribs. The air left his lungs in a single shocked sound. He swung wild, and I dropped low, sweeping his legs. The ground met his back with a thud. I straddled him, the point of my blade resting over his throat. The pack howled for the kill. "Finish it," someone shouted. My hands shook, not from mercy, just exhaustion. My muscles screamed, but I pressed harder, ready to end it. Then his voice cut through the chaos. "Enough." Rowan's tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. Every wolf went silent. I didn't move fast enough. Darian twisted beneath me, grabbed the blade, and it nicked my palm. Blood slid down, bright against the steel. Rowan stepped in before I could react, catching my wrist. My blood spilled onto his skin. The mark between us burned to life. Light, silver, soft, alive, flared between our hands, crawling up his arm like veins made of fire. Gasps rippled through the circle. The wound across his chest, the one my blade had left weeks ago, sealed itself completely, skin stitching smooth before their eyes. Whispers broke out. "She healed him. She's the bond. She's the curse." Rowan let go, staring down at his hand as though seeing it for the first time. I stumbled back, clutching my palm. The world tilted. It felt like the forest itself was breathing through us. "What did you do?" I whispered. He didn't answer. Not then. Not as the pack parted. Not as Darian spat blood and rage into the dirt. Not as Rowan led me away through the corridors of stone. When he finally spoke, it was long after night had drowned the valley. The firelight turned his eyes into liquid amber. "The blade you used," he said quietly. "It was never meant to kill." I frowned. "It went through your heart." "It woke it," he corrected. "Silver that old doesn't destroy, it chooses. It found you." The words slid through the dark like truth disguised as madness. "So I'm your mistake?" "No," he said. "You're the reason I survived the curse that built me." I didn't believe him. But when his shadow passed over mine, I felt it. The same pulse that burned when I stabbed him. A thread alive under the skin, whispering something neither of us dared to name. And for the first time, I wondered which of us was really bound. The wolf I caged, or the girl who couldn't stop returning to him. The nights grew quieter after the challenge. The pack kept their distance, their anger replaced by unease. They had seen what my blood could do, heal the alpha, burn the curse, and now they looked at me like something sacred and wrong. Sleep stopped being a refuge. It became a mirror. Every time I closed my eyes, pieces of a forgotten life crawled back through the cracks. A hand pushing me behind a door. A man's voice whispering, "Stay down, little one." Flames climbing the walls. Eyes like stormlight watching me through the smoke. His eyes. I woke with his name on my lips. By dawn, I stopped pretending I didn't remember anything. I started searching. Rowan's territory stretched like a labyrinth, stone halls, old weapons, rooms that smelled of dust and secrets. In one chamber, I found portraits burned half away, faces scratched out, names carved into the frames. But one frame still carried a sigil, a circle split by a line. The same mark branded on his skin. The same one above the cellar door from my childhood home. I touched it, and something in me snapped open. A girl, smaller, dirt-smudged, hiding beneath a table. A man kneeling before her, Rowan. His hands were bloody, but his voice was calm. "You'll forget this," he said. "You have to." The memory hit like falling through ice. I stumbled back and dropped the frame. He found me hours later in the courtyard, blade drawn, shaking with questions I couldn't shape. "How long?" I asked. He didn't pretend not to understand. "Since before the fire." "You were there?" He nodded once. "I tried to keep you out of it." "By killing them?" The words burned on my tongue. His silence was a kind of confession. "Why?" I pressed. "Why them? They were my family." "They sold you," he said simply, "to another alpha line, to breed power they didn't deserve." The air between us went still. My heartbeat echoed against stone. I wanted to call him a liar, but the ache in my chest said otherwise. The pack had always whispered about debts and alliances, about children born under false moons. "I don't believe you," I whispered. "You do," he said. "That's why you're still here." Rage flared, sharp, clean, desperate. I raised my blade, the same one that had chosen me, and pointed it at his heart again. "You think this bond protects you?" He didn't move. "No, it protects you." "From what?" "From remembering all of it at once." The words sank deep, dragging heat through my veins until the mark on my arm began to glow again. My pulse stuttered, then doubled. Images flickered too fast to hold. A woman's scream, claws, chains, Rowan's hand pulling me through fire. He reached for me and I stepped back, trembling, but his voice softened. "You were never meant to see it. You weren't supposed to carry their sins." "Then why can't I let you go?" I asked, tears blurring my sight. "Because you've already tried," he said quietly, "and you came back." His confession didn't break me. It broke everything around me. The hate, the grief, the certainty of who was the monster. They all shattered into something raw and dangerous. That night I dreamed again, but there was no fire this time, only his hand reaching through darkness, the same hand I'd once tried to kill. And for the first time I didn't pull away. When I woke, his scent lingered on my skin, and I realized with a sick kind of clarity, I wasn't hunting my memories anymore. They were hunting me. The night of the ceremony came wrapped in silence thick enough to choke on. The moon was full, huge, red-edged, almost too heavy for the sky. The pack had gathered in the circle below the ridge, their bodies painted with ash and blood. Fires ringed the clearing, and smoke rose like 100 thin prayers. They called it the binding moon, a night when the alpha renews his dominion, reminding the beast who it belongs to. Rowan stood at the center, bare to the waist, his skin marked with the same symbols that once haunted my dreams. I watched from the edge of the circle. I wasn't supposed to be there. Darian had made that clear. But Rowan's eyes had found me in the crowd and didn't let go. When the chant began, the wolves lowered their heads, murmuring in a language older than breath. Rowan's voice joined theirs, deeper, slower, breaking through the air like thunder underwater. The ground shivered beneath our feet. Then something went wrong. His voice faltered. The earth trembled harder. The mark on my arm began to burn, heat crawling up my skin like it remembered a promise I'd tried to forget. Rowan dropped to one knee. His claws tore through his palms. The sound that left him wasn't human. It cracked the night clean in half. The beast pushed forward, ripping through the fragile line between man and monster. The pack staggered back. Some fell to their knees in awe, others in fear. Darian shouted for restraint, but the younger wolves had already drawn their blades, trembling between worship and rebellion. His eyes found me through the chaos, glowing gold, wild, unmoored. The beast had taken him completely. He roared once and the fires bent backward, snuffed out in the wind of his rage. Then he scented the air. Me. My pulse stuttered. He moved, low and fast, until the distance between us disappeared. His claws grazed my throat, not deep enough to break skin, just enough to remind me what he was. Rowan, I whispered. The sound of his name hit something buried deep inside him. His breathing changed, heavy, uneven. His claws trembled against my skin. Rowan, stop. His body locked up like the command had weight. For a heartbeat, I saw the man inside the monster, the one who had carried me from fire, the one who had whispered mate instead of kill. The night of the ceremony came wrapped in silence thick enough to choke on. The moon was full, huge, red-edged, almost too heavy for the sky. The pack had gathered in the circle below the ridge, their bodies painted with ash and blood. Fires ringed the clearing and smoke rose like 100 thin prayers. They called it the binding moon, a night when the alpha renews his dominion, reminding the beast who it belongs to. Rowan stood at the center, bare to the waist, his skin marked with the same symbols that once haunted my dreams. I watched from the edge of the circle. I wasn't supposed to be there. Darian had made that clear. But Rowan's eyes had found me in the crowd and didn't let go. When the chant began, the wolves lowered their heads, murmuring in a language older than breath. Rowan's voice joined theirs, deeper, slower, breaking through the air like thunder underwater. The ground shivered beneath our feet. Then something went wrong. His voice faltered. The earth trembled harder. The mark on my arm began to burn, heat crawling up my skin like it remembered a promise I'd tried to forget. Rowan dropped to one knee. His claws tore through his palms. The sound that left him wasn't human. It cracked the night clean in half. The beast pushed forward, ripping through the fragile line between man and monster. The pack staggered back. Some fell to their knees in awe, others in fear. Darian shouted for restraint, but the younger wolves had already drawn their blades, trembling between worship and rebellion. His eyes found me through the chaos, glowing gold, wild, unmoored. The beast had taken him completely. He roared once and the fires bent backward. Snuffed out in, he stumbled back, grabbing his head, gasping through the shift. The pack rushed forward, but I stepped in front of him. Stay back. Darian's growl tore through the noise. He's losing it. He'll rip you apart. Then let him, I said. The wolves hesitated. Rowan dropped to his knees, claws still dripping, eyes unfocused. The moonlight bathed him in silver, and blood streaked down his face. He looked up at me like he was drowning. I can't hold it, he rasped. Get away. I shook my head. No, you always find me. It's my turn. I reached out, my hand brushing his jaw. His skin was burning, fevered, alive with the pulse of something ancient. And just like that, the trembling stopped. His breath slowed. The beast receded like a tide, finally surrendering to the shore. The pack stared as the alpha of blood bent one knee to the woman who had once tried to kill him. She's the reason I still have control, he said, voice raw but steady. The reason I still have a soul. No one spoke. The world itself seemed to pause. Darian took a step forward, face torn between fury and disbelief. You kneel before her? Rowan's gaze flicked to him. No, he said softly. I kneel because I choose to live. Every instinct screamed at me to end it, to drive the blade through his heart while the world was watching. I had the chance. The entire pack would have followed if I struck then. But my hands refused. I stepped closer instead, pressing my palm against the wound at his side. My blood soaked into his skin, and his body shuddered once, then stilled. The crowd fell silent. The hunter had just shielded the monster, and when his head bowed against my stomach, when his fingers closed around my wrist in quiet surrender, I realized the truth that terrified me most. I wasn't saving him. I was already his. The nights after the breaking moon were heavier. Even the air felt different, thick, metallic, as if it carried the echo of what I'd done. The pack no longer looked at me with hate. They looked at me with fear. And somehow that was worse. Rowan hadn't spoken to me since that night. He stayed in the upper halls, shut away with the elders, leaving me to the silence of his fortress and the burn crawling up my arm. The mark pulsed in time with my heartbeat, glowing faintly beneath the skin as if it had learned to breathe on its own. It started as a flicker, small, almost beautiful, then it turned to pain. By the third night I could barely stand, my veins lit with fire, spreading from the mark to my chest, my spine, my throat. I collapsed on the cold stone floor, clawing at my skin as if I could rip it out. He found me like that. "Don't touch me," I gasped. He ignored it. His hands pressed against my arm, and for a moment, the pain eased. But when his blood touched mine, the mark flared brighter, brilliant, violent. "It's not a bond," he whispered, eyes wide with something close to dread. "It's the curse waking." "The curse?" He didn't answer. He lifted me from the floor and carried me to the archives, a room carved into the mountain's heart, lined with books so old they crumbled if you breathed too hard. He moved with urgency, pulling scrolls, tablets, texts, in languages I couldn't read. Finally, he stopped on one. A symbol stared back at me, two figures bound by a line of blood through their hearts. He read aloud, his voice low. "The curse of the first wound, the killer and the bled, shall live as one. The blade chooses balance. If one heart stops beating, so shall the other." The words sank through me like ice. "You're saying if you die, you die too." The silence that followed wasn't shock. It was something sharper, colder. Every breath, every shared look, every heartbeat between us wasn't just connection. It was a chain. "Break it," I said. "There has to be a way." "There is." He traced the faded text lower. "One must destroy the other's heart, by blade or by love." I almost laughed. "You're telling me the only way to live is to kill you, or to love you?" His eyes met mine. "To surrender completely, willingly. No hatred, no fight left. That's what breaks it." I stepped back, shaking my head. "You want me to surrender to the monster who slaughtered my family?" He flinched but didn't deny it. "You think I wanted this curse? You think I chose you?" His voice cracked, a rare sound, raw and dangerous. "You were meant to die that night, but the moment your blood touched mine, fate rewrote us." "I never asked for this," I shouted, "and I never asked to need you." The mark pulsed again, harder this time, and I gasped. He moved closer instinctively, his hand hovering inches from mine, but I stepped back. "Don't," I whispered. "It hurts worse when you're near." "I know," he said quietly. "It hurts worse when you're not." We stood there in the glow of dying candles, the sound of our heartbeats filling the air like war drums. The bond was alive, breathing between us, demanding something neither of us was ready to give. Finally, he spoke again, softer. "You have a choice, little wolf. End it. Kill me, and you'll be free. Or accept it, and eternity is yours." I stared at him, searching for the lie. There wasn't one. "I choose neither," I said. He tilted his head. "Then you'll burn." "Then I'll burn," I repeated. "But I won't be yours." Something flickered behind his eyes. Pain, maybe pride, maybe both. "You already are," he murmured. The mark on my arm glowed brighter, hot enough to sear. I clenched my jaw, refusing to cry out. He turned away before I saw his expression, but I caught one final whisper as he left, meant only for the dark. "Then we'll burn together." The storm The storm came before dawn. Not rain, rage. I woke to the sound of metal clashing against stone and the sharp guttural cries of wolves turning on each other. The fortress that had always felt too still was alive with chaos. Fire lit the corridors. The scent of blood carried through the smoke. Rowan's wolves were fighting their own. I ran. Instinct, not reason. My feet carried me through the hallways toward the courtyard, where the heart of the battle raged. The moon was sinking, red bleeding into gray, and I saw him, Rowan, surrounded by his own pack. His claws were out, eyes gold and wild, his chest heaving as he fought off 3 at once. And leading them, blade drawn and mouth curled into a snarl, was Darien. "The Alpha has fallen," the Beta shouted, voice raw from battle. "He's cursed, bound to her. He's no leader. He's infected." The words cut through the chaos like arrows, and the pack hesitated. That one pause nearly killed him. Darien lunged. His sword sliced across Rowan's ribs, deep and deliberate. Rowan's body jerked, blood spilling black in the moonlight. The sound that left him was less pain and more fury. He caught Darien's arm and slammed him into the ground, but he was weakening. The mark on my arm seared to life as if his pain had reached through the bond to find me. I should have run. That was what I told myself. But his roar hit the air, a sound I'd heard once before when he'd saved me from fire, and every part of me moved before my mind caught up. I grabbed the nearest weapon, a fallen wolf's dagger, and cut through the smoke toward him. Darien saw me first. "There! The witch!" he shouted. "She's the reason he bleeds." The pack turned, a blur of fangs and silver eyes. I didn't stop. I threw myself into the space between them, blade catching the glow of the dying fire. Rowan fell to one knee, blood slick on his arm, chest rising too fast. His gaze locked on mine through the chaos, and something in it, calm, dark, knowing, stopped me cold. He wasn't fighting to win. He was waiting. For me. Darien charged. I caught his swing, the shock running up my arm like lightning. He was stronger, faster, but I'd been surviving him since the night I tried to kill his alpha. The blade twisted, slipped, and found its way home beneath his ribs. He froze. For a heartbeat, the world went still. Then I pulled the dagger free, and the Beta collapsed, the rebellion unraveling with him. The courtyard fell silent except for Rowan's breathing. I turned to him, shaking, blood spattered across my arms. "You knew," I said. He didn't deny it. He rose slowly, wiping the blood from his mouth, and his voice was quiet. He wouldn't have stopped until one of us fell. You were the only one who could end it. You used me. I needed you to choose, he said. Not survival, not vengeance. Me. My chest tightened, anger and disbelief warring with something I didn't want to name. You wanted this? He stepped closer, unbothered by the blood, by the broken bodies around us. I wanted you to stop running from what already owns you. The words struck deeper than the blade had. I shoved him back. You think this is love? No, he said, voice low and steady. This is war, and you're the only one who can stand beside me when it ends. His hand found my jaw before I could turn away. The air between us crackled, burning, magnetic, impossible to resist. I should have pulled away. I should have screamed. But when his lips met mine, the world exploded into something feral and consuming. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was a collision. My fury against his obsession, his hunger against my defiance. The taste of blood mixed with heat and fire, and for one breath everything else. The rebellion, the curse, the hate, ceased to matter. When he broke away, his voice was rough against my ear. Now you understand, he said. We don't destroy each other. We burn the world instead. And as the flames around us climbed higher, I realized with chilling certainty, he hadn't just won the battle. He'd won me. The curse began to rot from the inside out. It started with the mark, faint cracks blooming beneath my skin like lightning frozen in flesh. Every pulse hurt. Every breath echoed with his heartbeat inside mine. The bond that once burned with life was collapsing, pulling us both toward something neither of us could escape. The elders whispered that the curse demanded balance. Blood for blood. One heart must stop for the other to keep beating. The last full moon rose above the valley like an executioner's blade. Rowan waited for me in the ruins beyond the fortress, where the air was still, and the stones remembered every scream that had ever passed through them. He was pale, stripped of his usual calm, his chest bare, the mark on his skin glowing faintly. The twin of mine. "It's time," he said. I wanted to deny it, to cling to something fragile and human. "We can find another way." "There is no other way," he said softly. "You knew that the night you stabbed me." The moonlight broke over his shoulders, painting him in silver and shadow. The beast beneath his skin stirred, his claws glinting, his eyes flickering gold, fighting the pull of the curse. "If I don't end it," I whispered, "the curse will." He stepped closer, slow and unafraid. "Then do it. If you love me, finish it." The words hollowed me. The air went still. For a long moment we only breathed each other's names without speaking. I raised the blade. The same silver that had started all of this. My hands shook, not from fear, but from the weight of everything that had brought us here. He didn't flinch. He reached out and guided the blade to his heart himself. "You were never my weakness," he said. "You were my ending." I drove it through him. The sound it made wasn't death. It was release. The light that burst from the wound swallowed the night. The bond screamed inside me, ripping through every nerve until the world shattered white. His body crumpled into my arms, his blood warm against my skin, and I fell to my knees, gasping as the curse devoured the last of its power. Then silence. The moon dimmed. The fires in the distance flickered out one by one. The mark on my arm faded, leaving only a faint scar where it had burned brightest. I pressed my forehead to his chest, waiting for the heartbeat that never came. "I loved you," I whispered, "and I hated you for making me." When dawn came, I was still there. The sun rose, cold, cruel, unbothered by what it found. And then, he breathed. Once, then again. I stumbled back as his body arched, light crawling up his veins in pale threads. His eyes opened, not gold, not silver, but both, swirling like the two halves of the same storm. His voice was rough, raw, inhuman. "You finished it," he said. "No." I stepped closer, trembling. "That's not possible." The mark on his chest glowed once more, shifting, reshaping until it mirrored the one that had been on me. But this time it wasn't just his. It was ours. Half man, half me. The curse hadn't ended. It had changed. Behind us, the pack approached slowly, their heads bowed in reverence or fear. None dared speak. To them, he was no longer the blood alpha. He was something new, something born from both destruction and mercy. He stood, towering, his hand outstretched toward me. "It was never about who lived," he said. "It was about who we became." The pack knelt. One by one, the wolves bowed their heads. I didn't. I met his gaze, no longer his enemy, no longer his prey, and said quietly, "I didn't save you. I saved what was left of me." His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Then rule beside me." The sun climbed higher, turning the blood between us to gold. For the first time, the silence didn't feel empty, because now I knew the truth. The beast I stabbed under the blood moon had never been my enemy. He was my reflection, the part of me I had spent a lifetime trying to kill. And as the light swallowed us both, I finally understood. We were never meant to survive each other. We were meant to become one.